Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at a driving test route around Colwick. So as we start up, we're heading out of the Sainsbury's car park. As I've said in some of my other videos, we're not permitted to go in and out the test centre car park itself unless we're actually doing a driving test. So on this occasion, we're heading out from Sainsbury's. As I said, the test centre is off to the left, first exit, this roundabout. Now this roundabout from here, there's only one position you should really be in. There's not any lane markings or divisions, so whichever way you go in, try and be nice and central. The same when you come out of the test centre. Coming from the right, however, there are clear lane markings, so make sure you follow those if that's the case. Up ahead, we're going to be taking the next road on the right. Now that's going to lead us up to the main road, Colwick Loop Road, where we'll be going straight ahead at the traffic lights. See how the pupils lining the car up before turning in. This is a really good example of how to approach a junction like that. We don't want to be turning in, cutting the corner. We want to make sure we're looking up into that turn and lining the car up to come into our own side of the road. At the traffic lights, we're going straight ahead. So look at the markings here to make sure you're in the correct lane. Remember, when you're at the traffic lights, don't just fixate on the traffic light and don't zone out and miss the traffic lights when they change. You've got to keep your mind on what you're doing. So keep looking around for traffic that could affect you or changes that could affect you when you do move, and keep mindful of those traffic lights. When you do move through, have a little glance around for anything coming from the sides, particularly looking for blue light vehicles, cyclists or pedestrians who might be crossing on your exit route. Just up ahead, we're going to be taking a left into Vale Road. Now this is quite a narrow road as we go in, and the junction itself is a strange angle. So it's a left turn on the right hand bend where that AA cars just went. So you do want to use your mirrors and signal to turn into here. See all the parked cars as we come in too. Be very mindful that there's not a lot of space to meet oncoming vehicles, so you don't want to come rushing into that junction. You want to be approaching with your mirrors covered and your brake covered, ready to hold back. That's especially true at this bend here because you cannot see what's coming the other way, and typically there are parked cars just around the corner. If you've got oncoming vehicles, just like the car in front, we're going to have to wait for them to pass before we can move on. Now this is a bus route too, so you're very likely to encounter a bus as you come around that corner, and that can make this pretty difficult to deal with. So again, where your view is poor or where there's not a lot of space, you want to be coming around with your brake covered, your mirrors covered, and your speed nice and low so you're ready to wait if you need to. Moving out around the parked cars, of course, lots of mirror use before you move out, and when you move in again, cover that left hand side. You want to know what's going on behind you before you move around, and that's going to help keep you safe, not just during your test but afterwards too. You notice the pupils traveling at about 20 miles an hour down here, and so is the car in front. And that's absolutely perfect for a road like this. There's not a lot of space to play with if things change, and we need to be mindful of these gaps on the left where we may need to move into if an oncoming car appears. I'd suggest moving into this gap in particular because we've got a road on the right, just in case someone comes up to that junction turning towards you. If you're sat out on the right hand side of the road, when someone does come out of that side road, you're faced with nowhere to go really because you're not already out the way. It creates a really difficult situation. So if there's a space on the left and there's not a clear view of what's ahead, even with side roads, my advice would be to start dipping into that gap to make sure you're safe. And that black Jaguar is an example of someone who could cause you a problem. And it could be as simple as they look to the right, see nothing's coming, and pull out before they've looked up to the left. And that's such an easy mistake to do. I see it all the time with experienced drivers. I see it all the time with learner drivers. So just be really mindful that you're in a defensive position when you're approaching situations like that. Coming around the bus, of course, be mindful of pedestrians, use your mirrors plenty, keep the speed nice and comfortable, and then watch out for these bus lanes too. Notice the signs here, they tell us we could actually use the bus lane at particular times of the day. So look for the days and times that are listed, and if you're outside of the times listed, then by all means use that bus lane. Because we're turning right, that wouldn't be the best decision in that situation, but if you're going left or straight, by all means use that bus lane. Treat it as a normal lane if you're outside the times displayed. Turning right at the lights, as I said before, just have a quick glance around, make sure that you're nice and safe before you fully cross that junction. If there are blue light vehicles or pedestrians crossing or cyclists and you don't spot them, it could cause you to have to react as you make the turn, or worse, if you don't spot them and they don't spot you. So keep your eyes moving as you go through. A green light means that you can continue if it is safe, not that you can continue blindly. So make sure you're safe as you continue. Now, this bus lane on the left is a 24-hour bus lane, so you cannot use it. And it's also a ULEV lane. So be mindful of what you're driving. If you're driving an electric car or a very, very few select hybrids, then you can drive in that bus lane. If you're not driving those cars that meet the criteria, then like my pupil here, you stay in that second lane and out of that bus lane. So my car is a hybrid, but we are not clean enough to use that lane, unfortunately, so we've got to stay out here. And as you're going along, it is important to keep an eye on that left lane because you do get vehicles coming up who will try to pass on that side. So using your mirrors regularly is going to keep you aware of anyone who might be coming around you and keep you safe. Now, this pupil is swaying a little bit along this road, and sometimes that's caused by using the mirrors too much or too intently. So what you want to be doing is short glances at the mirrors, but your mind stays on the road ahead. If you're overthinking the mirrors or the lines or other vehicles, it's going to cause your arms to tense up and move positions. You've got to focus on what you're doing and then glance around, keeping your mind focused on what you're doing ahead. Up ahead, we've got a set of lights, and then we've got a roundabout. Now, at the lights, you can see it's nice and clear. There's no pedestrians using it. And then at the roundabout, we've got 2 lanes going straight ahead. So you can use either lane to do this as long as you maintain your position on the way out. So we've entered in the right-hand lane. And as we come across the roundabout, we're going to leave in the right-hand lane too. Be very aware of your left mirror and cars in the left-hand lane, of course, because they do have to merge back in after the roundabout. As you can see, the bus lane's starting up again there, with the exception of electric vehicles who can stay over there if they want to. So again, keep an eye on those mirrors so you know exactly who's with you and what they're doing as you leave that roundabout. Up ahead here as well, there's a lot of businesses on the left, so sometimes you'll get vehicles like the van turning across. Just be mindful of cars coming in and out of those driveways, because sometimes those vehicles will slow down unexpectedly because they're looking for a business. They can't quite see it until the last minute, so they'll just slow down and indicate at the last minute. Another roundabout where you've got 2 lanes going straight ahead, and again this pupil is approached in the right hand lane. That's going to lead us into the next roundabout quite nicely, and you can see us holding that right hand position as we leave. Note the pedestrian there as well. That's a clue that the lights could change. So you want to keep your mind on those lights as you come across as well. If you miss those lights, they start changing and you panic react, you jump on the brakes. That can be quite uncomfortable and it can cause a risk for the vehicles behind you. So very important to look beyond the roundabout on your way in. Now we're approaching Ladybird Island here, and you'll notice the pupil lining up in lane 3. Note the arrows. Lane 1 and 2 say left, 3 and 4 say straight. Now there's a really simple way of tackling this roundabout, and we're going to do 2 right turns at this roundabout on this route. So coming in on lane 3 allows us to go right towards the 4th exit, city centre. Now the simple way of viewing this is you're going to use the left 2 lanes to go towards Grantham, the first main exit, or the right 2 lanes to go towards city centre, the second main exit. And that's what we're doing here. So lane 3, which we're in, as we get over to this set of lights, becomes lane 1. Now at that point, we're going to go nice and wide out to the left-hand lane on the exit. And that allows the other lane to come with you into that second position. So be very, very mindful of what lane you're going into and how that links up to the exit route. 2 lanes for left, 2 lanes for right, if we focus on just the main exits and ignore the car parks and the little one-way streets, which as far as I'm aware, they don't tend to use on driving tests. As we come down the main road here, you'll notice the speed change up ahead to 30 miles an hour, and the position of these signs, it's really easy to miss them if you're focusing forward too intently. You've got to keep your eyes moving for them because they're a little bit wider positioned than you'd expect them to be. So by keeping your eyes moving, you're going to pick up on things like that. You'll be able to spot those limits in good time and adjust your speed accordingly. But if you've got your focus too narrow, you're looking at the car in front and just focused on that, for example, then you're very easily going to miss those signs. At these traffic lights, we're going to be taking a left turn. Now, the lines do hold you back quite far from the turn itself. So once you pass those lines, if you see the lights changing, you want to keep going and get out of that junction. You don't want to stop between the stop line and the junction itself, because that's going to leave you in a very vulnerable position in the middle of the junction. When the lights do change, we just want to focus on making our turn and keeping tight to the curb. One of the common mistakes that people make coming up to left turns like this is they'll start leaning out to the right before they make the turn. Now, with a van on the right, that's really obvious that we can't do that. And yet people will still do it because they're so focused on not hitting the curb on the way in. So keeping it nice and tight to the curb, look up into the turn and bring the wheels in nice and tidy to your lane. Looking up as far as you can, you'll see another set of lights with 2 lanes, and both of these lanes are left only. So whichever lane you're using, you want to make sure you steer into the appropriate position as you make the turn. On this one, my advice would be use lane 1 to go to lane 1 and 2, and lane 2 to go to lane 3 and 4. So generally, lane 1 to lane 1 is going to keep you safe. And while you're making that turn, you want to be aware of who's turning with you, because they might not follow the same pattern as you. Because it's left only, we don't need to signal, and there's no oncoming traffic that can cause us a problem. We get priority over the cars coming the other way who want to turn right. Just up ahead, you'll notice again, left only in lane 1 and 2. Lane 3 is also left only, so you can use any 3 of those lanes to take the first exit of the roundabout. And as long as you link up to the correct lane on the way out of the roundabout, you shouldn't have any problems. Just keep an eye on the mirrors as you're going through to be mindful, be aware of anyone coming with you and anyone who might not be following their lane correctly. Notice how the pupil's position as well is staggered as we're going along these roads. We're not getting alongside anyone. And that gives us a nice sort of protective cushion of space around us. If you've got someone close by, like now we've got a black car right next to us, that can put you in a vulnerable place because you've got no escape route if you need it. So if things happen, you cannot turn to the right because there's a car there. Whereas now we've got space. So if something on the left happens, if a pedestrian falls over or steps out, the pupil has room to move out around them. So always leave an escape route around you, always leave a safe space around you. Taking up the middle lane here to go straight ahead, that's going to lead us into the left lane on the other side of the traffic lights. Notice the left lane goes left only on the way up to the traffic lights. If you are going left here, you want to be watching the filter light because there is a left arrow on the traffic light. It can be really easy to miss these, especially if you're busy looking at the lights on the right hand side of the junction instead of looking at the ones on your side of the junction. So notice the lights have an extra light on the left of them. Just keep an eye out for those filter arrows directing you in if that's the direction you're going. And of course, if the arrow is pointing in the direction you're going, it means you can move through the junction as long as you've got a clear and safe path to do so. Notice the yellow box on this junction as well. Something to watch out for here is we don't want to go into that yellow box until we know we can get out the other side. So be very mindful of the traffic ahead. If there's queues forming, do not enter the yellow box until you've got a safe space to get out of the other side of it. Because if you stop in the yellow box, you're firstly going to fail your driving test. Secondly, you're going to block up the junction. And thirdly, you risk getting a penalty if that junction is camera controlled or if somebody reports you for stopping in the yellow box, because it is a driving offence. So make sure you can get out of those boxes before you go in. At the next set of lights, we're going to be taking a left turn, and there is a filter lane as we come up to that. So you'll want to be careful not to signal too soon, telling people you're going down the one-way street. But equally, we do want to signal to say that we're going left towards the A52 here. And that's going to lead you into a filter light, you can see we've got a green arrow saying we can go left, so the other traffic doesn't bother us. Just got to keep your eyes moving again for anyone who might not be doing what they should be, because green, remember, means go if safe, not go blindly. So have a look around as you're going through those green lights, and that's going to keep you safe. Up ahead, we've got a number of parked cars, shops on the left, and a pedestrian crossing. You can see the light on the gantry up above. This is just to help you see it because of the traffic that can build up here. Again, just keep your eyes moving for anyone using that crossing. If anyone is using it, be ready for it to change. A really good example there of how to deal with a car turning left. My pupil didn't make a dash to go around them. She held back, let them move out the way, and then carried on. If you go round a car that's turning left and there's someone coming out of that junction as well, they may not prepare for you doing that and they may pull out still. So the safest path is just to slow down, let the car turn out your way, and then carry on. Use your mirrors as you're doing that because, of course, cars behind you might try and overtake. At these lights, we're going to follow straight ahead. It's more of a bearing right, but it's not a right turn. So we're not going left. We're not going second left over to Lady Bay. We're going straight ahead over to the left lane of the main road here. Now, when you're following Sat Nav, that refers to it as a bear right. However, some Sat Nav may refer to it differently. So if ever you're coming up to a junction like that and you're not quite sure where you're supposed to be going, you can always ask the examiner or your instructor to point to the direction, or just point to it yourself and say, is this where I'm going? Either way, there's two lanes that make that turn, so you've got to make sure whatever lane you are in, you stick to that position as you leave the junction, and that you're checking your mirrors, aware of whoever else is around you. Remember, your mirror use is absolutely essential when you're on your test, and even more essential when you're out on your own, because you're going to have to look after yourself. So you need to demonstrate good awareness, not just during your lessons and your test. You need to keep using those mirrors way beyond that to keep yourself aware of what's around you and keep yourself safe. We're going to be turning right just up ahead. Notice the filter lane here. So the arrow signifies where we should be moving over. Notice how the pupil's moved in quite late for the turn. This could cause a problem if you can't get fully into the box and you obstruct the traffic that wants to go straight ahead. So any of those filter boxes, try and bring all four wheels in nice and early. And that way you're going to keep the road clear for the cars that are going straight ahead. And that's especially important if you've got oncoming traffic and you need to stop before making that turn. Any roads like this where it's quite narrow, you can see the pupils coming through at a very low speed. There's lots of mirror use going on here as well, because we've got a bit of wiggling around between the parked cars. And again, this mirror use and this low speed, the combination of them is going to keep you safe. But what you've also got to watch out for is anything coming the other way, so you can decide where you're going to meet that traffic. So your eyes have to be everywhere. And of course, the low speed just gives you more time then to react to what you can see. As we come up to the end of this road, we're going to be taking a left turn, and that's going to bring us up towards Westbridge town centre. Anytime you're coming into town centres and high streets, be mindful of pedestrian activity, crossings, and traffic lights and such. The increase in pedestrian activity, of course, means you've got to keep yourself very aware of your surroundings, keep your eyes moving, because it can be so easy to miss something. And one of the things that really catches people out, particularly as they're coming up to a crossing, is the front pillar on the driver's side, because that can obscure your view of the pedestrian as they're crossing the road. So make sure you're leaning around, see around that pillar, eliminate your blind spots as you're going through high streets, and make sure you don't get caught out by anything such as pedestrians who are walking out between parked cars, or walking out from crossings where they just happen to line up with the pillar on the car. So yeah, keep your head moving, lean around so you can see around that pillar, especially as you come up to crossings. And unlike the van in front, make sure you don't stop on the crossings. Make sure you've got a clear gap on the other side before you cross over that zebra crossing, so you're not obstructing anyone from using it. Mini roundabouts, watch for cars from the right, of course. The left-hand side will give way to you. Now, as we come around, there's another zebra crossing, and remember, the rule is you must be prepared to give way to pedestrians if they want to cross. So as you're coming around, you want to be scanning around for anyone who might be at the crossing or on it as you come across the crossing too. If there's anyone who you're not sure about, take the defensive approach, cover your brake, and be ready to stop until you're certain that they're not a problem. Up ahead, we've got a bus coming the other way. You can see there's a little bit of a squeeze coming through here, but the pupils picked a nice gap on the left there to go around the bus. Now, she was a little bit cautious going into that, but I can understand it because of the lack of space we had, and with a big vehicle facing you, that can be quite intimidating. But pick a gap, focus on where you want to pass the bus, use those mirrors to tune into the space you've got, and match your speed to the space you've got too. So I'm happy that she slowed down. I think she could have kept her speed a little quicker, but it's not such a big issue that I'd be worried about it or needing to correct her on it. Another narrow road, and as you can see, we're sitting out on the wrong side for quite a lot of this, so we want to be looking ahead for any oncoming traffic, anyone turning in from the other end of the road or coming out from side roads. If there is someone coming the other way, what we should be looking to do is move in and give way. So in this situation, I'd have preferred the learner to give way rather than carrying on, because that caused the other car to have to react. Coming out the end of the road here, turning left, we've got hedges and walls on either side, so that makes the view quite poor. Notice how the pupil's getting right up to the giveaway before pulling out, and that gives her a better view around those hedges. If you're too far back, you're not going to see enough to be able to make a safe decision. And then coming along the main road, we've got another crossing there. Just watch out for pedestrians who may want to cross, or who may have pressed the button and walked off from the crossing already. So those lights could still change if there's anyone nearby, even if they're not walking towards the crossing. On the right there, we've got a direction sign telling you that there's a division up ahead in the road, so you can bear left or bear right. Now, we're going to be bearing right towards Colwick. So as we come up, what we're looking to do is go to the right-hand side of the division, and as we get closer, you'll see that there's 2 lanes on each side of that. Now, ideally, we should be in the left of those 2 lanes. However, the pupil has picked the right-hand lane. Now, there's no problem in doing that as long as you're using your mirrors, you're keeping aware of that left-hand side, and you move back in safely when you get a safe opportunity. So moving across this set of lights, the lanes do merge in on the other side. We want to be very aware of who's on the left and very confident to move back into that left-hand lane as we come across the junction. The pupil does a really nice job doing that. She's a little bit sharp with the steering. We could have taken it a little bit lazier. The car behind was holding back to let her pull in. So it's a case of she's treated it like a lane change rather than a lane merge, which is not too big an issue, but it just could have been done a little bit smoother. With the cement mixer in front, notice how the pupil is keeping a really good following space on the truck. It's a bigger vehicle. It creates a bigger visual barrier to what we're doing ahead, and we need to make sure we can see around it a little bit more. So getting closer to that vehicle creates a bigger problem for us. Keeping back like this, you can see around it a little bit easier. You're going to have more time to respond to direction signs or warnings, and it's just going to give you more stopping space if you need it, because we can't see what's in front of that truck to decide or predict what they're going to do. We're going to be turning right at the end here, and you'll notice that we can use the middle or the right hand lane. I've asked my pupil to line up in the right hand lane because we're going to be going right again after the right turn, so 2 right turns. This is just a good example of planning ahead. If you're going right and right again, then you want the right-hand side between those junctions, and that's exactly what the pupil's done here. If you're in the left-hand lane where the cement mixer is, as you make the turn, you're then creating more work because now you've got to change lanes to get in that right-hand position. It is really tight on this corner, so you can see the pupil staggering her position with the truck there just to not get alongside it. That gives her more room on the corner. Good mirror use as well coming around there is essential. Now coming back up to Lady Bay, and you'll notice that same pattern as earlier. 2 lanes on the left to go towards city centre, 2 lanes on the right to go towards Colwick and Southall. So we're taking up lane 3, As we curve into that roundabout, you'll see that this becomes lane 1 on the curve. So at this point, we want to be going all the way over to the curb side, so we leave in lane 1 on the main road ahead. Now, as you're doing that, of course, the mirror use is essential. We need to know who's coming with us. So the right-hand side is important to check because that's where you've got the space. That's where the other traffic is going to be. The left side is useful to check, but of course there's less risk there because you're right by the curbside and nothing can really fit there. But there's no harm in covering both mirrors. Up ahead, we've got another roundabout, and this one you can use both of the lanes to carry on straight. Now the roundabout itself is very, very tight, so you've got to make sure on the way into the roundabout that you're keeping all the way over to the left-hand curb, almost as if you're going to turn left before you carry on round to that second exit. Now this pupil doesn't go wide enough in my opinion, and that creates a risk to traffic in lane 2 that may try to overtake on the way around the roundabout. Immediate to leaving the roundabout, we've got the bus lane, so you've got to get on that right mirror again, get the signals on if there's anyone nearby, and take up that right hand position as safely as you can. And it's essential to be building your speed confidently while you do that, not racing the traffic that's next to you, but just keeping pace with it as they build their speed too. So very tricky roundabout, one to practice plenty of times before you do your test at Colwick. Make sure you're going really wide if you use that left lane and watching your right mirror as you go around and off, ready for that bus lane. The next roundabout, again, we've got 2 lanes that go straight ahead. You can use either of them as long as you maintain that position on the way across. So we're taking up the right-hand lane. I want to see lots of left mirror use as we come in here because, of course, that's where there's going to be other traffic. That's where you're vulnerable to other traffic cutting you up. And then coming off the roundabout, sticking in that right-hand lane, and again, watching that left-hand mirror because that's where people are going to be who want to try and get around you before having to move out around that bus lane. Now again, building your pace up really swiftly as you leave that roundabout is going to keep you safe. If you're coming off the roundabout really slow, really cautious, you're more likely to have people try to get around you. So building your speed swiftly with the pace of the other traffic is going to be a positive move to keeping you safer on this road. Again, as we come down this road, you want to be checking your left mirror quite frequently just to keep an eye out for any electric vehicles or buses coming out that lane. While you're doing that, of course, keep your mind up ahead, keep a good following space on whatever's in front of you, and if it's safe, keep your speed up. This is a 40-mile-an-hour road. You can see the pupils sitting at about 35 quite consistently there, which keeps us up with a van ahead. I'm absolutely fine with that. Even if the road was clear ahead, 35, 40 is pretty reasonable. Once you're getting down to 30 and below, that becomes a bit of a problem and it's going to encourage people to overtake you. Now, just up ahead, we've got a new housing estate on the left, and this is your cue to look out for the speed change. Now, it's the 30 sign as that housing estate starts. Now, because of the position of the signs being quite wide from where you actually are, it can be very easy to overlook them. So the start of that housing estate is a good cue for you to slow down. Now, just up ahead, you'll see the bus lane end. If you're carrying on straight, you'll want to check your left mirrors before the end of the bus lane, signal and move yourself into that left-hand lane if it's safe, then cancel the signal to carry on straight. I'm going to get my pupil to stay right here because we're going to turn right into Mile End Road, which is going to lead us back up towards where the test centre is and where Sainsbury's is, where we started this video. Now, as we come up to this right turn, keep in mind that a green light does not allow you to turn right across the oncoming cars. You must give way to them unless there's a filter light. So there is a filter light on this junction, but it doesn't always come on, and it doesn't come on straight away. As you've seen there, my pupil was able to turn straight across the junction because the green light was on, the arrow, but the first cars had to wait because that green arrow hadn't come on straight away. So it's really important to keep your eyes up on those lights and just be very, very conscious of what they're telling you to do. Again, with that green light, remember to look around and make sure you're absolutely safe before you cross the junction. Don't just fly through blindly thinking a green light means I can go. if there's something going on that causes you a problem, such as cyclists or pedestrians crossing or blue light vehicles, then you are responsible for spotting that and avoiding the problem. As we come down this road, just a nice long straight road, so you still want to keep your mirrors covered and looking around, because you're very vulnerable to being overtaken here, especially just after this bend where you've got a really long straight and really good visibility. People do like to travel at more than 30 down here, so keep your mirrors covered so you're ready for people to overtake you if they're going to. I'm not saying it always happens, but it's just good to cover your back. As we come down here as well, keeping that speed up, keeping your vision up, looking ahead for things like lorries, oncoming vehicles, or anything coming out of the sides, so you're ready to handle that situation safely by adjusting your speed, your position, and again, keeping on those mirrors so you know what's going on before you have to do that. Just up ahead, that's going to bring us to the roundabout just outside Sainsbury's and the test centre, where I bring this video to an end. So I hope you found this useful in preparing for your own driving test and getting familiar with the Colwick area. If you have, please like, share, comment and subscribe, and I will keep these videos coming. Thank you again for watching this, and God bless you.